Hi, I'm Thomas. Welcome back to Pilot's Workshop. After installing the dust and chip control to our workbench, we arrived at the final episode of the build. And we are going to fill every free corner of this bench with means of organizing and storage. The idea behind these cabinets is that they are modular. They are separated into 4 small and 2 large ones. While the large ones are filled with drawers, the small ones can either have drawers as well or receive simple cabinet doors. Each of the small ones will be equipped with power outlets, so that I will not have any need for an extension cable running through the workshop when I work with power tools on a project. I began by making the cabinets. The back sides, as well as the top and bottom of the cabinets, are made of MDF that I cut first. The visible sides of the cabinets that hold the drawer slides or hinges are made from laminated spruce boards. To keep the construction simple, I didn't plan any recess for the back sides, so the manufacturing of those boxes was quite simple. And after cutting the outside elements, I marked all positions of the drawer slides and pre-drilled the screw holes. After brushing on a layer of linseed oil, the cabinets were ready to be assembled. A funny detail was that I didn't find any fitting drawer slides for the very short drawers of the small cabinets. So I took some that were a bit too long and had to make room for them by chiseling out small reliefs for them in the backboards of the cabinets. After that, I could continue assembling. Then came the drawers. To keep the build easy, I planned them in only 2 different sizes that would later get different size fronts. And both sizes had the same height and design. This way I didn't have to change my machine settings very often and could basically mass produce the many parts that I needed. I designed them to fit into each other with front and back, as well as left and right side being identical. The drawer bottoms would go into a groove. All those details could be made on the workbench itself, using the integrated router. And thanks to all drawers having the same design, this went very quickly. These grooves could all be made with the same setting. After a small change in setup, I cut the remaining groove and as quickly as that, all parts for the 12 drawers were finished. Some quick deburring with sandpaper, and then those parts were pre-drilled for the drawer slides as well, and received some linseed oil before being assembled. I just made sure to not put any linseed oil on the glue surfaces. The assembly went straight forward. Thanks to all parts being made at once, I could simply pick them from a pile and put them together. Here I am making sure that I take a left and a right side, as those two are not the same anymore after drilling the whole pattern for the drawer slides. The drawers were assembled without any screws or nails. I simply used some clamp pressure during the glue up. If you wanted, you could use some tacks or small nails to assist in the glue up instead of the clamps. Then the rails were screwed on. The important detail here is to make sure that both rails are parallel and don't peek over the front of the drawer. That's why I tested each of them for good function before continuing with the next one. And as quickly as that, the bulk of the work was done. Here you can see the array of cabinets as they will fit under the workbench. Basically every free corner of space is used up. But before fixing them into place, I first made the drawer fronts. And for those I had the extra intensive idea of cutting each side out of one sheet of laminated wood to have a continuous grain structure along all cabinets. So I made my markings and got to work. First cutting them into the areas for the large or small cabinets, and then slicing them into the fronts for each drawer or cabinet door. Then followed the handles. To make sure that nothing sticks over the main sides of the workbench, I sunk the handles into the front ever so slightly, using the depth stop of my drill press. After that, I pre-drilled for the mounting screws. Next, I marked the cutouts for the power outlets. I wanted to use these external wall mount outlets because they came with those dust protection lids and were encapsulated nicely. But the installation of those was not done by myself, but by a professional. Because you can never be too safe with electricity. If you want to integrate power outlets into your workbench, I would actually recommend to use extension cords with multiple outlets that can be plugged in on one end of the workbench, as that would make the integration way easier. Or you ask a local electrician about his opinion on the matter. Then all fronts received their layer of linseed oil and were ready to be mounted. For the assembly, I was using spacers to make sure that the gaps between drawers would stay consistent. The fronts would all receive a few wood screws from the inside to secure them to the drawer. The handles were mounted in the same step. Some of them needed extra long screws because they were at the position where they had to pass through 2 layers of wood. One small detail that I missed was to consider the thickness of the top plate of the cabinets, and because of that I wouldn't get the outlets into their position. So I ended up chiseling out that area in the MDF. The cabinet doors received simple furniture hinges. This type of hinges is usually adjustable in all directions, so I tried to start off with a centered position when I measured them for pre-drilling. Before the cabinets could be installed permanently into the workbench, the cable routing had to be organized. I simply let mine go over the tops of the cabinets and led them in from above. The cabinet with a router switch also needed a large hole for the plug of the router. Finally, the cabinets could go to their places and screwed onto the bottom board. An electrician already installed a junction box with the 4 cables that go to each corner of the workbench. But of course you can save yourself that effort if you work with extension cords in the cabinets instead of those wall mount ones that I used. To make sure that the cabinets can expand and contract independently from the main structure, they don't get fixed directly to the legs, but only to the bottom board that we installed in the last episode and to each other. Then I could work on the holders for the outlets. These holders simply provided a structure for the outlets to be screwed onto, just like they would to a wall. And small spacers made sure that they peek out exactly the amount that I wanted them to. The electric installation was then done by a professional. All that was left for me to do was to plug in the router, and the workbench was finished. Then it was finally time to fill the cabinets and drawers and get a bit of order into the workshop. And that was the build of my ultimate workbench that serves as the outfeed table of my table saw and as the main work surface in my shop. It has a large twin screw vise for clamping, an integrated router with dust collection, retractable wheels, integrated power outlets, and a whole bunch of storage. And adjustable feet. I really hope that you enjoyed this series and that you were able to take away some ideas and inspirations for your own workshop. And if you want to build this workbench yourself, you can purchase the full set of plans as a PDF download on my website. The link is in the description below. This is Pilot's Workshop. Thank you for watching and see you in the next project.